total revenue needs to be less than variable cost for you to shut down. Let's think about graphing this. Because we know we're in a bad situation, we know the average cost curve, we're talking about firms that are losing money. And again, I know you know this, but you might say, hey, where'd you get that average cost curve, Larry? Well, the answer is, I know it's U-shaped. I know its minimum has to lie on the marginal cost curve because we proved that. And in this case, I want it to be above the marginal revenue so the firm's losing money. The firm knows that profits are equal to quantity times per unit markup, which in this case would be price minus average cost. It's a negative number. Price is less than average cost. And so this is a situation where you're losing money. What should you do? Well, you know that the shutdown condition tells you something. So let's go over and think about how to graph this. I'm going to make a copy of this and say, let's think about shutdown. We know that the firm will want to shut down if total revenue is less than variable cost. Well, how do we put that graphically? Say, well, you know what? I probably have to have the average variable cost curve on here because I can't really figure variable cost out of just that average total cost curve. So I'm going to do one of my little tricks of thinking about one of these little thought balloons. Okay, we say recall that if I wanted average variable cost, I knew that would be variable cost divided by output. If I multiply both sides by Q, I get quantity times average variable cost equals variable cost. So that's good. Remember this, because what it allows me to do is over here, I can now rewrite this as saying, well, the shutdown condition says that total revenue is less than average variable cost. Total revenue is price times quantity. And that's got to be less than variable cost, which we just discovered in that little thought bubble. Variable cost is just quantity times average variable cost. And now, since there's a Q on both sides, as long as Q is non-negative, I can divide through by Q and not reverse the inequalities. So I'm just going to knock those Q's out. And I know now that my shutdown condition is that price falls below the average variable cost. So this is our shutdown condition on the graph. Price falls below average variable cost, we're going to shut down. Otherwise, we keep operating. Well, where is the average variable cost? And again, I don't know. I know the average variable cost is U-shaped, and I know its minimum falls on the marginal cost curve. I'm going to draw one because, I got the pen. And I could put it, as long as it meets that condition, I'm going to put one here just so we can talk this through. We'll call this average variable cost. In this situation, what's the firm going to do? Well, since price at the profit maximizing output, Q star, price is greater than average variable cost, we're not shutting down. We're not shutting down in this case. We're going to keep operating. We're making some money off of our workers that we can put towards the fixed cost. This price exceeds the variable cost by enough that we'll have a little rectangle that we could put towards fixed costs while we're waiting for the phone to ring and the broker to say, hey, I found somebody. Let me show you one last picture. And you can imagine what that's going to. I'm going to show you the opposite situation. It looks like this. And that firm at profit maximizing output, where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, Q star, is losing money because the gap, price minus average cost, is negative. The average cost curve is is higher than price. No way to make any money. But my key here is, I know I'm losing money. In fact, why don't I just put that on there? That'll make life easier. This rectangle would be your negative profits. You've called your broker. Get me out of this industry. In the meantime, what should you keep doing? Well, suppose I told you now that the average variable cost look like this. So is that a legitimate average variable cost? You bet. It's U-shaped, and its minimum lies along the marginal cost curve. But now, in this world, you can see that this firm will recognize price is less than average variable cost. With the green AVC, profits are negative, and total revenue is less than variable cost, which implies shutdown. You put a padlock on the door, and you just stare at the phone and wait for your broker to call and say, I found a buyer for that brick and mortar.